Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. KermMartian here, back with Train Simulator 2017. This is another KermMartian Live, where I will be driving trains along with you guys for companions. This is, in fact, episode 21 of my Train Simulator 2017 series, as far as I recall. It's been a little while, actually, since I put together a Train Simulator video, because I've been putting together something new for us today. So that HST over there is not what we're going to be driving today, nice as it is. In fact, today we will be driving something that might look like a Class 801, but is not meant to be, and here it is. This is a prototype of CPRR1. CPRR1 is a private train car slash locomotive. Now, for the sake of prototyping, I've just been using the Class 801, as you can see. But CPRR1 is, kind of meant to be a diesel-electric locomotive, have a nice slanted, streamlined front, has living quarters, bedrooms, a kitchenette, bathroom, etc. in the back. And for the sake of prototyping, the Class 801 is a nice stand-in for that kind of shape. It's something I've been planning for a long time. The CPRR1 is the first locomotive for the CPRR, the Central Park Railroad, which is something I began designing when I was in a very small single-digit number of years old. You can see here that I've coupled it to a couple of fleet cars. Couplers sort of work-ish. I see the one at the front is a little bit ugly. We're not going to worry about that for now. But among other things, and I'll talk more about the process that I've gone through in trying to make this locomotive. Locomotive slash private train car. It's meant to be primarily a private train car, but to have the ability both to move itself around as needed and to move other things as well. I estimated, as designed, it'll be something like 1,500 to 2,000 horsepower, so enough to pull itself and a couple of cars around. Maybe not quite enough for a full train like this. I expect that to be more what you need a, 4,000 horsepower for. I've plopped an Acela engine on the end. It's going to be pushing a power car, I should say, not engine. It's going to be pushing for us due to weird train simulator things. It has to push from the front. The coupler at the back doesn't seem to really jive with the Amfleet cars. I suppose that makes sense, given that it has the specialized semi-permanent couplings. But let's get going and then talk about this on the way. And I'm going to fix the placement of this because this is ridiculous. This should be much further back in that housing. All right. Now, let us hop into the cab, and then we will talk more about the CPRR1. Put us into forward, and release the brakes, lower the HUD, not all the way, there we go, and get going. Hope that Acela power car can push us along well. We seem to be in good shape. And off we go. Oh, let's get some headlights on too. Also, don't mind that hissing air. This is why we have an Acela power car in the back. Yeah, look at that. Maroon, gold, and black is a wonderful color combination. I'll talk more about that as we go. I'm going to try to not hang out right here too much because of that annoying hissing sound. Let's get a little bit more power on. See if we can get ourselves towards that 15-mile-an-hour limit we have right now. 12, 13, 14, and 15 as we head out of London's King's Cross Station. September has dawned here in the real world, so I've put us on a clear fall afternoon around 2:30 p.m. That's not too far off from what it is right now, although it's pretty overcast outside in the real world here in the northeast of the U.S. It's been raining all night and all morning, but it looks like the weather might be clearing. Anyway, so CPRR1. I've been trying to put it together for about 2 weeks now in Train Simulator, working on it as I can in between all the other things I have going on in life. And Train Simulator has not been making it easy for me. That's why I haven't really done a video in the last 2 weeks. I see that I published episode 20, my Metro North P32 AC adventure, just about 2 weeks ago. So there we go. I'm happy to have something new for you guys. I was going to put together a scenario, but among other things, turns out the Class 801 doesn't actually work that well outside of the ECML route, inexplicably. So that's another thing. There have been a number of weird train simulator glitches and problems that have been keeping me from actually giving this a solid test. including the reason why we have ding, that Acela power car on the end. All right, let's get up to the 45 and see what this thing can do. Unfortunately, because this locomotive isn't doing the actual locomoting, we're not going to get the awesome spin up of the traction motors on this car. They'll be at the end. Let's see if I can put myself back there. Oh, I can't. Can't I? Ah, it's probably still in the tunnel. There we go. There's the acceleration noise. So we'll do that when we want to hear some acceleration. That's not the best view. I think the Acela looks much better from the front than from the back. Oh, we're about to go into another tunnel. And let's get ourselves up to that 65. I know I'm putting on too much power. But there we go. There we go indeed. Heading up towards that 65 on the East Coast Mainline in the CPRR1. Presumably people are still waking up and catching up with everything. So we will most likely have more people joining us soon. That is the hope. It's a sunny afternoon here in England. Very nice indeed. I was looking up the Brit Rail Pass today. I see it's like $600 for 15 consecutive days, which is not too bad. Not too bad at all. I definitely think that if I go to England for a reasonable length of time, do some sightseeing, do some exploring, do some train riding, that would be the correct choice for me. Right, off we go. Now we're really getting the speed up. I'm going to head to the back again so we can listen to our Acela power car. Yeah. Maybe take a look around this train. 79, let's step off the power because we don't want to speed. Alright, and step off the power even more. As we head towards Finsbury Park. Let's get that cursor out of the way, that's annoying. It's so quiet here from the front without any traction motors. Ah, we can go up to 90 now, very nice. Heading through Finsbury Park. Next station I should say is Haringey Down Fast. I don't have any particular stop scheduled for us on this route. I might stop at Stevenage along the way just for fun, but we're heading all the way to Peterborough on the ECML today in the CPRR1. So let me, as soon as we get into that 95 and I don't have to worry too much about speed, I should duck out, look at the outside of our train and talk a little bit more about this train and its history, its pedigree, maybe even a little bit about its livery. Oop, speeding. Well, that's nonsense. Whatever, we'll just go straight into the 95. We're only 1 mile over. Mile an hour, I should say. There we go. Alright, let's get into the 95 and then do some talking. Next station is Hornsey. Hornsey followed by Alexandra Palace. We're heading along next to a bunch of train storage yards. Our good old Class 365s over there, 365. We're on the fast lines, ding. Alright, we're heading towards 95, so I'm going to put us in notch 1 and take a look outside. Alright, look at this. Might be time for some screenshots too. Delta that ugly coupler. Let's see if we can crop that off a bit. There we go. Alright, so the CPRR1 is what we're driving today. A prototype of the CPRR1 built on the Hitachi Class 801. So the Class 801 that comes with Train Simulator is just in a plain white livery, such as was used for the Hitachi Class 801 test trains. They're now going to be using the 801 as, I think, a dual mode locomotive, diesel electric with, the bright green Great Western livery as the Class 802, because as far as I understand, they temporarily have discontinued the project to electrify the Great Western Mainline. But Train Simulator's East Coast Mainline pack, we're back in the cab, was made before any of those decisions, when the Class 801 was just a prototype and just a plan for the ECML. So I started with just that plain white livery, and I did a bit of trial and error to learn how to edit textures in Train Simulator 2017. Textures like the ones used for the outside of this locomotive. So basically I learned how to do a repaint, as it's called in Train Simulator terms. And I encountered many difficulties along the way. Like, for example, you have to clear cache and then restart Train Simulator a bunch of times to make changes stick on occasion. I used GIMP to do the editing, and you have to export in one very specific format for the repainted textures to apply properly, and it doesn't seem to match what's actually written in the documentation. I also encountered some excitement learning which XML files to edit, various changes that are not so obvious, and yeah, it was a pretty severe adventure to get it working. My latest problems are that so the Class 801 is an interesting locomotive to modify. It has the perfect shape for what I want to do, and the fact that it has a cab in the front, and then, the majority of the car is actually open space for people to sit and ride, which fits in, well with what I want for CPRR1. Most of the train will be taken up by living quarters, so it made sense that I would start with the Class 801. Unfortunately, if you take the Class 801 onto other train simulator routes, I don't want to call it AI, but the automated pathing and AI train setup engine kind of chokes and tells you either that the route is blocked or that there were quote-unquote many failures. So that's why we're running on the ECML today. I haven't managed to figure out how to make it happy with running this train anywhere other than the ECML. The other thing is that there's several different versions of the cars. It turns out that the way Train Simulator seems to have set things up, what I'd call the power cars, the locomotives at either end of the train, don't seem to actually produce any motive power. It seems to be the individual train cars themselves that each produce 1,000 horsepower of tractive effort. So because I'm using just the power car, there's no tractive effort. I tried copying over one of the simulation XMLs, or rather merging in parts of the simulation XML that would otherwise tell Train Simulator that this is a 2,000 horsepower locomotive, passing through Hadley Wood, by the way, on our way up to ECML. And that doesn't seem to have actually done the trick. Hello there, Afer. I'm just talking about my adventures creating this brand new train. It's a Class 801 in a special new livery that's letting me prototype the CPRR1, my eventual private train car that one day will be a real thing. So along those kinds of adventures, I have gotten to the point where this particular quote-unquote power car doesn't actually produce any power. So that's why we have an Acela power car at the back. Maybe. If I check out your content and you have cool stuff, then I would certainly be more than happy to tell people about it. I keep my time in my kind of YouTube watching time. I'm limited. I don't know. I'm very picky with what I watch and promote on YouTube. Like, pretty much the only train simulator player that I talk about on a regular basis is Moleman978, because he creates awesome stuff. But I will certainly see what you're working on. So we are now passing through Potter's Bar, continuing our way up the ECML. Let's see, what else? What else can we talk about? All right, so the actual CPR1. So it's been, a pain getting this actually working in Train Simulator, and I still have work ahead of me to make it, actually have motive power, so we don't have to have this admittedly very nice looking Acela power car on the end pushing us along. And I don't want to use just the Acela power car for the geometry as well, because number one, the slant is a little bit too extreme for what I have in mind, and number two, I want to have that actual living space inside. So the CPRR1 is my own private design for a train car, and it came about because I was designing my very own railroad as a child. I was, as I've mentioned on previous streams, a train kid. Very enthusiastic about trains as a kid. My family and I went to many a scenic railway and a train museum. I had model trains starting from, I think Brios were my first, then Duplo, then Lego, then HO, then N-Scale. I think it went in roughly that order. But I was definitely into trains, and among other things, I was also into sort of engineering, design, and, creating schematics for things. I learned how to draw, hello, Class 365, on the slow lines. I learned how to do electrical schematic design at an early age from Radio Shack X-in-1, like the 30-in-1 kits. And among other things, I started designing my very own railroad, which was called the CPRR, the Central Park Railroad. I think I mentioned before that I live in New York, or grew up in New York, I should say, New York City, and Central Park was a place that I found myself nearly on a daily basis. I wanted to create what I call the Central Park Railroad, which is a bit of a misnomer. I don't really need any moderators for now. We don't have enough activity that moderation is necessary, but once we do, I will keep you in mind. I will address that more after I get to the end of my story. So the Central Park Railroad was named after Central Park, and I certainly had maps that I designed that included tracks in Central Park. It would be like, the hub of my railroad, but it was designed to be a worldwide railroad, that it would grow through New York City, then the US, and then even have tunnels and bridges that would lead across oceans. So the Central Park Railroad could be truly worldwide. I designed things like rolling stock. There were going to be long distance passenger trains, short distance like commuter trains, even trolleys and trams. I designed some timetables, mostly for the New York routes, because that's what I was focusing on. Hello, Hatfield. I designed a fare card. I designed shunting and storage yards in a variety of different scales, so I could kind of maybe be the Henry Ford of railroads, copy and paste the same kind of generic, functional, pre-designed rail yards all over the world for the Central Park Railroad. But one of the important things to me was I definitely romanticized the idea of the private train car. So the CPRR1 private train car has evolved over many years, starting from, I think, when I was still in my single-digit number of years old, where I wanted to be able to ride all over the world in my own private train car. And because of that, because going all over the world was part of the plan, and we're speeding slightly, let's lay off the throttle ever so slightly, it was necessary that it not just be a private train car like a classic Pullman private car that could be pulled in a train, but also have its own motive power. So my very first CPRR1 that I designed, you were doing this live stream at 5 o'clock, it's pretty late. 2:30 in the game, 1:30 in real life. Actually, we're just about 1 hour in real life behind where we are in the game. Here we are going through Welland Garden City, by the way. Welland Garden City. No, not too tired. Actually, I woke up not too many hours ago. It's a weekend, so it is not the 3rd of September. So it sounds like you lapped me in terms of days. Anyway, CPR1. So my very first design was an articulated train car, where it would be two roughly 40-foot sections connected by articulation in the middle. The living room and the cab and all of the power generation and motive stuff would be in the front half, in front of the articulation, and then the back half would be kitchen, bathroom, and 2 bedrooms. Also, we need to get some nice screenshots on this excellent viaduct. Oops, I clicked in the wrong place. Oh, I really hope Train Simulator. Damn. Train Simulator crashed. It's the UK where you are. Well, oh, that's right. It is the 3rd of September. Sorry, I thought it was the 2nd of September, but I missed a day. All right, this is going to go squiffy momentarily because I accidentally clicked away from Train Simulator and it crashed, as it's wont to do. One of the many exciting bugs about Train Simulator. So it's going to turn black for a moment, but we'll hop back in. Somebody on Chemetech's chat system is suggesting that I play Euro Truck Simulator 2 during the day and Train Simulator at night. Although that's an exciting suggestion, I can't say that driving trucks is particularly appealing to me. Maybe, I've honestly never tried it either in real life or in Train Simulator, in simulators. Oh, I forgot to set the time of day. That's exciting. We're not going to worry about that. Well, now we're Welland Garden City. Our train is happy again. Take a nice little screenshot here at Welland Garden City, I think. Very nice. Beautiful. I like the lens flare off those headlights, and now we're going to get going again. So let's put ourselves into the cab, put ourselves in forward, AWS off, lower the HUD a little bit, release the brakes, and get going. Hopefully let's actually go to the back so we can listen to our Acela spool up. I'm going to be quiet for a moment so we can listen. There we go. That's the stuff. Those are good sounds. Those are the sounds that we want to hear. We're entering a 30-mile-an-hour zone, means we're going to be switching over to the fast lines. In fact, that's exactly what we're doing. Our CPRR1 just switched. Sorry for the lack of lighting here. We will fix that momentarily. In fact, let me double check if my headlights are on properly. Yes, they are. Beautiful. Alright, now we're on the 115. Let's get going. It's not going to be much to see here in the dark. That is the one downside of nighttime driving in Train Simulator. Oh, let's go back to the back too. Yeah. 53, heading up towards 115 miles an hour because we're on the fast lines now. And we're heading towards Peterborough in 55 miles. I'm really tempted actually to tell you what, when we get to Stevenage, I'm going to restart the scenario from Stevenage to Peterborough on the fast lines with afternoon so we can see a little bit more. But in the meantime, I will be vigilant with our nighttime driving. Ooh, that's actually quite pretty with the houses in the dark there. That's quite nice. So over the last, say, 8 years, I've kind of picked up my love of trains and continued to design CPRR1. I should say that there was a bit cut out where I was struggling with Train Simulator actually working, where specifically it was not. It crashed, it corrupted my files, and I had to spend some time getting it going again. But here we are again. Those on the live stream got to stick with me for all that excitement. Those on... We have a flashing yellow. Why do we have a flashing yellow? I'm going to start slowing down. Those of you watching on YouTube will have missed all of that excitement. We have another flashing yellow ahead. Let's see if I can see what's happening. I'm zooming in right now, but really don't see much. So when I was in college a number of years ago now, I took an optional voluntary CAD course where I was learning AutoCAD. And as part of that course, I'm just braking because of this weird signal situation. Keeping an eye on things ahead. Repeater says, we're going to be diverging 70 miles an hour for the diverging. A little bit more braking. We're good. We're not speeding. We're down for the 70. Relax. So I used this CAD design course as an excuse to draw up my first three-dimensional plans of CPRR1. Throughout my childhood, I had drawn many 2D plans, many hand-drawn, 3D perspective sketches of what it would look like. I tried to work out the curve at the front to be exactly right, so it would be attractive and streamlined enough, but also not take up so much room that there was not, room for a fairly reasonable cab in the front there. Hello. I think that was a 365 over on the right. But as part of this CAD class, I got the opportunity to actually make it in 3D for the first time. And if you guys want, I can certainly link to the Top Gun Chematech, where I've posted some of the screenshots from that 3D model, as well as a whole document. Here we are at Nebworth. You don't have to worry about pulling in Nebworth and blasting through the station because we're not stopping here today. Showing what that actually looks like, including a whole document I was saying that includes many details of CPRR1. So since then, as I was saying while I was waiting for Train Simulator to load back up, I have also done a little bit of research around parts that I would need. I've done some research on DMUs that are for sale. So these would be used trains that have been decommissioned, that have a fairly reasonable chassis, and possibly even bogies that have electric traction motors, although I suspect for what I'd want to actually build with CPRR1, I'd want to get my own trucks or bogies, depending on whether you're American or British. For example, it looks like Siemens, who makes the ACS64 and various other American locomotives, has some really nice trucks available. I'm sure they would be very expensive, and I'm sure I'd have to have the right connections to get them to sell me like two, instead of a few hundred for trains, if they even would sell them separately. I would probably also need the electronics for the driving system. That Could be something they would sell me as well. Could also not be. Again, it probably depends on who you know. I'll have to work on that. Anyway, I also did some research into a company that sells pre-built modules that include a diesel engine somewhere between 500 and 1,000 horsepower, along with the alternator that produces electricity from that diesel engine for the purposes of a DMU, and various research on other parts that I would need to actually build this train. So basically, money and time are my two biggest. Oh, here comes Stevenage. We should consider slowing down if we're going to stop at Stevenage. There goes an HST, by the way. 90% braking. This is not going to happen. This is not quite going to happen. I don't think. Oh, it might. This might actually work. We might actually stop at Stevenage. So, yep, time and money are my two biggest impediments to actually making CPRR1. We shall see what happens in the future. I really do want to actually build it at some point. So this seems like a reasonable way to start thinking about it. At least play around with it. Here we go. We are stopped at Stevenage. Whoa, that's a close-up view. I'll take a quick screenshot of CPR, of this Class 801 CPR1 prototype. There we go. Now, as I said, I'm going to quick duck out. This will take just a moment to switch to a daytime view. Quick drive, CPRR1 prototype train, London to Peterborough. We're going to go from Stevenage to Peterborough fast. We're going to make this a clear autumn day at, let's make it 1,500 hours now. Assuming it took us about 30 minutes to get from King's Cross to here, and then we'll start right back in. So we will have only a moment of downtime, and it looks like people have left us for now, which is sad and unfortunate. They're missing out on good stuff.
I'll align this in editing as well.
Oof, I've also been dealing with a little bit of a sniffle over the last couple of weekends, so that is another good reason to not have done a train simulator video. It'd be hard to understand me if I'm all nasal and congested. I see there are new Acela trains being listed on eBay. So here's something I never understand. Somebody keeps trying to sell the HHP 8 N scale locomotive for like $130 on eBay, and yet it was on sale for $40 most recently at the model train shop at which I shop. So I don't know if they're trying to bank on scarcity or what. All right, now we're back. All right, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. So just without further ado, I'm going to set us in forward, cancel the AWS, release the brakes, put on our headlights, and get going. Set ourselves straight into notch 3. Also, we have an HST there. Very nice, very nice. And as soon as we clear this, I'm going to take a screenshot. Beautiful. All right. So, it's been a little bit of a bumpy stream today. Let's go notch 4. But we have about 36 minutes left on this, I say scenario. Scenario is not quite the right word. It's been a little bit of a bumpy scenario, but hopefully it will work out in the end. We have daylight again. We have a functional train. We have our Acela power car pushing us from the back. We have our Amfleet cars, so all is well. Come back, train. So we have a cafe car, we have another coach, and then we have CPRR1 right at the front here. Get some cinematic camera there for a moment. Yeah, that's the stuff. As we continue to glide along, let's see if I can set myself into, yes, next to the train. That's a good view. Looks like I need to use slightly higher resolution textures too. You can see the pixelation on this texture. Please excuse the hissing air from the poorly configured train. Maybe that's why we never go. I don't think so though. I think it's not just the brakes. I think it's that it actually doesn't understand that this train has electric motors. But I went through that in full detail before. So that's CPRR1. I'm sure I'll be talking about it further in future videos, so I won't beat the issue to death. The TLDR, too long didn't read, is I want to build a private train car. I want it to be capable of both moving itself and a few other cars and also having lots of living quarters. I want it to have a slanted front. I want it to be... So the livery I'm thinking of, originally I've been thinking of like all gray, but lately I've been thinking about maroon, gold, and black. I think that's a very attractive livery. Yeah, and I want it to be real. So there we go. There we go, indeed. What else is new? So I said this is my first stream in a while, and it is. I talked about the upcoming trip I have to Milwaukee. Sometime within the next week or so, I will be hopping off on an Amtrak trip, and we're speeding. Let's fix that. Amtrak trip to Milwaukee for a friend's wedding. I will be taking Amtrak. I will be staying in sleeper cars, roomettes on my way there and my way back, which is going to be a great deal of fun. I'm looking forward to that a lot. Part of that is going to include a ride on the Northeast Corridor going between New York and Washington, D.C. So I will bring along my laptop, and I'm planning to try to record my route from at least New York Penn Station to Philadelphia while simultaneously driving it on my laptop in Train Simulator. It should be a lot of fun. I'll be in a Northeast Regional train. I think that's the Cambridge branch that just branched off to the right, by the way. So that should be a lot of fun. And we're speeding again. I've always wanted to do that. I know I've talked about that on my stream before, about wanting to simultaneously drive and ride the same train, in Train Simulator. I'd love to drive in real life too, but that doesn't lend itself well to playing Train Simulator. And I will certainly get lots of photographs. You should follow me on Twitter and or on Instagram. It's KermMartian on both of those mediums. KermMartian, like a Kerm who is from Mars. And I will do my best to post lots of awesome photos and possibly even videos too as I go. I'm new to Instagram, so that's going to be an interesting experience for me. I also have a Facebook, but I don't recommend you try to follow me on Facebook because I tend to only accept friend requests from people I actually know in real life. But Twitter and Instagram, go crazy. Always happy to have more people checking out what I'm doing. Here we are rolling along a very quiet East Coast Mainline because of our motive power is at the back of our train. And then later in September, I have a round trip on the Acela to Washington, D.C., which should be a lot of fun. Should be a lot of fun indeed. Believe it or not, I've never actually taken the Acela in real life. I've driven it infinitely more, in fact, miles in Train Simulator than I've ridden it in real life, which is weird. Weird indeed. I'm gonna blow my nose a second, excuse me. And we're once again speeding. Let's lay off the accelerator. See, the problem with saying the word Acela so much is I tend to then say accelerate instead of accelerate. I suppose I should therefore tell, since I'm talking about Acela and words that have Acela in them, talk about a little anecdote. So I think it was 2 summers ago now, Amtrak was having a contest called Accelerate. And I think it was might have been the anniversary 15 years maybe, of the Acela trains. Possibly 20 years. I need to double check that. I'm ashamed to say I don't remember exactly. Hello. So they were having this contest called Accelerate, where you could accelerate the Acela trains by making videos and posting them on Twitter about your favorite thing about the Acela. And I made 3 videos. I posted them on Twitter. I think I was one of relatively few people entering the contest, for better or worse. And from that, I won about $400 worth of Amtrak points. So since at that point I was taking very frequent round trips back and forth to Vermont on the Vermonter, I was able to fund a number of those trips from my points from Amtrak. So that is my run-in with words that start with Acela, but should really not. So Accelerate was the name of that contest. It was a lot of fun. I hope they do some more contests in the future because I am always happy to talk about... I talk about it for free. I'm constantly telling my friends that they should have taken the train, they should be taking Amtrak, how pleasant it is, even though it might be a little bit slower and a little bit more expensive, that it's worth the price to actually enjoy your journey. So, if I'm going to shill for free, I might as well shill for some free points. I tried to convince them, so I always wear an Amtrak. It's called the Pointless Arrow logo, the one they had in the 1990s. I wear a pin of that on my lapel of my sports jacket, much to the confusion of my friends and co-workers. And I asked them if they would hook me up with a pin of the current logo, that triple sweep. I forget I think it has a name, not as cool a name as the pointless arrow, but I think it does indeed. Basically, their response was go buy it in the store. So that was a bit annoying. I suppose they're not beholden to give me free stuff, but I try to give them some free marketing. So whatever, all good. The CPRR would certainly give away, free pins to enthusiastic supporters. Just saying indeed. Let's take another look at our awesome train we have here. For those of you who are just joining us, we have this beautiful maroon, gold, and black livery. Those of you who have known me for a while know that maroon and gold are among my favorite colors, especially together. We're going through Biggleswade. Can't think where I would have gotten that from. Chematech, the website that I volunteer at, founded and co-run, has colors that are maroon gray and gold, but maroon black and gold is a very attractive scheme in my opinion. I'm still working on fine-tuning this color scheme on this Class 801 prototype. Ooh, let's take a screenshot. That's nice. But I'm pretty happy with what I have so far. You can see there's a little bit of a glitch here where it doesn't quite line up. That's easily fixed. The door, I need to change the door color. The back there doesn't have the colors carried over. It's supposed to, and it doesn't. I tried to actually overlay colors there, and they don't seem to have worked properly. The top is still gray. That needs to be changed in some way. I'm not sure. Ooh, we're speeding. Let's fix that. Not sure whether I'm going to make that maroon or that straight black, or maybe, yeah, probably black. Black would probably look nice there. It's probably the way to go. Got that nice fan spinning under there. But here we go with our beautiful train that we can appreciate. It's been so quiet on the stream today. Everybody must be out and about on this Sunday, I suppose, weirdly enough. Let's get our head back out. There we go. So we can watch the signals fly by and try not to plow through them. We are not switching over, so we don't have to worry about that 40-mile-an-hour speed limit. Just a relaxed trip today. I might try to make a scenario in the future with the Class 801 CPRR1 prototype, but I'd hope to be able to fix making it actually have its own motive power before I do so. Because we don't always want to have this Acela on the back pushing us along. Oh, that's exciting. I guess here in America we have higher pantographs, because that pantograph is not in the right place at all. That's rather unfortunate. That's rather unfortunate indeed. Oh, what else? What else can we talk about? Only two watching, one of which is me, and I'd imagine Michael is the other one. Such a quiet afternoon. I went to the grocery store yesterday evening and it was quite empty. I want to say that everybody's probably away for the Labor Day weekend here in the U.S., which is what it is right now. But that could be a possible explanation. It could just be that everyone is out doing things on Sunday. That could be the case indeed. And we're speeding once again, because this is such a relaxed route that I'm not really paying much attention to the speed. Mainly I just wanted to let this CPRR1 stretch its legs. There we go. We have another 31 miles to Peterborough as we roll through the English countryside. There's no point looking at our list of tasks for the day, because really our tasks are go to Peterborough. There we go, indeed. We just passed an AWS, so I'm sure we got a ding in the cab.
Excuse me.
But I'm sticking my head out. Oop, that was a whistle board. Class 801 is a very nice train as far as I can tell, in that it accelerates fast, it brakes fast, just kind of goes along very, very behavedly. Doesn't really do anything it's not supposed to. You don't have to constantly poke at the controls and keep switching between different notches. Pretty much does what it's supposed to. What else can we talk about? So I told you about my upcoming train travels. I gave you much more detail about the CPRR1. Let's see, what else? Any train news in the world? Not really. r/trains on Reddit continues to have beautiful pictures of trains. r/model trains continues to have interesting model trains that people are working on. I continue to wish I had time to actually work on a model train layout in my apartment, but I have I would say I don't have the space. I could make space if I needed to. I could figure out a way to find space, like make a desk. I have a very thick piece of wood as a desk, so I could make a desk that was a piece of thick tempered glass on top of a layout and make the layout kind of slide out if I really wanted to. Or I could make like a Murphy bed kind of layout that would flip down from the wall, but a bigger problem is I don't really have the time. Financial resources are always a concern. I could probably budget it if I had to, but my budget would be happier if I didn't spend hundreds more dollars on model trains. I've already spent enough trying to get all the Acelas, which, as I've talked about before and have linked to, I have many N-scale Acela trains. Hopefully nobody's crossing these little crossings here across the ECML with our 125 mile an hour train barreling along. It is very quiet though without those traction motors, so I suppose we do need to make sure that they know we're coming by blaring our horn. Hello, Class 365, we're speeding again. See if we can slide right out of that 125 point, whatever it's saying we're going. Here we go through St. Neots. Another Class 365 over there on the, parked actually, on a siding. We are definitely not accelerating. I don't know what you're on about, train. There we go. Back under 126. And come on. There we go. Just a quiet ride today. Quiet indeed. What else? What else should we talk about? Oh, I read an article about the Class 802, which I was talking about earlier. Basically the Class 801, but in the green West Coast Mainline livery. Great Western livery. West Coast Mainline. This is the East Coast Mainline. Great Western is the other one. The one that goes along the English Riviera. They've had to do special things to save it from lots of deterioration and rusting with the salt water coming from the Atlantic there. So they've come up with special ways, for example, to raise the resistors that are used for braking out of the container that they're in. So if any salt water gets in, either from spray or from storms, that they will, not start rusting and deteriorating, which is a big problem that they've had with the current trains that run along that route. So I was reading about all the different things they're doing to make that plausible, make it possible for those trains to last a good long time. As I was mentioning earlier, it's unfortunate that they seem to, have given up on the electrification projects for the Great Western at the moment. That church was ringing. That's awesome. That's awesome. That church was ringing its bells. I mean, it's 5:15, it's 3:15, 15:15. Let's see if I can figure this out. Right there, shift 2, there we go. Got some crane noise too there. They've really added more noise to this. I was commenting on this on the North London line, that they added a ton of very realistic city noises in on the North London line. Much to my confusion, in fact, because I'm used to those sounds here in real life in this city, and I couldn't tell if they were coming from the game or coming from real life, so that was rather confusing. I haven't heard anything new about the Avelia Liberty, the proposed successor to the Amtrak Acela trains, anytime in the recent past, but hopefully they're still moving along. Hopefully, indeed. Other train news. I talked about what I was looking at in terms of the Brit Rail Pass earlier, that's something I want to try out eventually. If I take a trip to the UK at some point, the Brit Rail Pass definitely seems to be the correct choice so that I can ride all the trains. That'll be a great deal of fun. Not only will I get to ride trains, but I'll get to see a great deal of the English countryside, which greatly appeals to me. And if it's while I'm still working with my startup, which I anticipate to be very plausible, then it'll also give me a chance to work on my trip, which should be good. Should be good indeed, because I can just ride along, look at the scenery, get to know England, be on trains, and do work. It's one of the reasons continuing to talk about chilling for Amtrak, it's one of the reasons I love riding Amtrak trains. that the vast majority of the ones that I've ridden have pretty reasonable Wi-Fi that tends to work most of the time. Seats with tons of legroom that actually fits me, being a super tall dude. You know, a cafe car, you can walk around and stretch your legs. On the long distance trains, they tend to have observation cars with beautiful views. It's like a mobile office with food and, you know, Wi-Fi and beautiful views. I mean, what's not to love? I can't think of a better way to work. So that is something that is fun. That is something that I enjoy, and I highly recommend if you have the opportunity to take cross-country trains in any country, you should absolutely take that opportunity to do so. 17 miles more to Peterborough. We're estimated to be there in about 14 minutes, and that'll work very nicely for my schedule today. I hope you guys are enjoying this ride. As I've repeated several times, it's kind of a low-key stream today. Just driving along, enjoying the scenery, giving the Class 801 CPRR1 prototype a day out. It's nice to have it actually be running rather than spending endless hours fiddling with XML files and multi-channel images in GIMP and all that other fiddly, frustrating stuff. I will definitely keep working on it though, and once it actually functions, well, first, once it functions under its own motive power, I think that'll be the impetus for me to make another video. Once it is then capable of running on routes other than the East Coast Mainline, once I figure out whatever's causing that, I will do my best to do another video, probably with a scenario on the Northeast corridor between, I'll probably do a New Haven to New York scenario, pretending either that this was being towed behind an Amtrak train, which is how it would most likely be run, at least for the immediate future. We're speeding. I think I mentioned in the past that I looked up Amtrak's rates for towing private train cars, and they're eminently reasonable. I would seriously consider actually doing so if I had sufficient money to afford it. Definitely a far, far classier and more fun way to travel than, you know, air travel, for instance. Who would have first class? If it's like $1,500 for a first class air ticket, and for about, say, $2,000 I could pull my private train car behind an Amtrak train. That seems like pretty obvious calculus to me. Why would you do anything other than ride in upholstered plush comfort on your own private train car, plus having, you know, everybody on the platforms in between being like, oh, check out that awesome train, what is that? So that definitely appeals to me. Definitely appeals to me indeed, and I'm looking forward to one day hopefully making it a reality. First, I need to work hard on my startup to make that financially feasible and hopefully temporally feasible as well, in terms of, you know, having enough free time first to build it in the first place. Although there are places that will make private train cars, I definitely want to be at least partially involved in putting it together. Maybe just the design, but I think it would be fun to get my hands dirty actually building it to some extent as well. I've thought about that, thought about the feasibility of that and how I would actually do that. But there we go, indeed. We're getting AWS because we have a 40 coming up. Oh hell, let's put on some brakes. Passengers on our train today, we are at 90% braking because we have to slow down to a 40-mile-an-hour zone in half a mile. Oh dear. 100 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour, because we're going to switch over. Where are we switching over to? What's that about? 80 miles an hour, we're not going to make it. 70 miles an hour. Yep, I know. 60 miles an hour. We're going to be going about 50. That's not too bad. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to be going a little slower than that, but that's reasonable. Snaking around there. I do love that snaking. I wonder why we got switched over to... We seem to be on the wrong tracks now. That's an interesting decision the train simulator has made for us. Well, let's head back to the back there and listen to our acceleration again. Might as well get it, even though it's not the most glamorous thing, we might as well get a shot of our Acela power car pushing this train along. Sorry for making our faces go through these poles. It is so quiet today. Other than a disruptive person earlier that I had to ban from chat, it's basically just Michael talking. How weird. Weedle, weedle, weedle. Getting our speed back up towards 125 here. We've gotten to quite the rural area. Now we're I mean, we'd be in the right place if this was America, way over on the... I'm pretty sure these are the... let me see if I can get this right. The up slow lines. Yes. So people should basically... the slow services that are going back towards London, i.e. down, would be on this side because it's left-hand drive. So this would be the left-hand if you're heading, sorry, up towards London. So up is towards the center point, and London is considered like the core. We are currently heading north, but we should be on the down lines. We're a down service. Trains that are heading south are on the up lines. So this would be the up slow line that we're on right now. And yeah, if you look at the HUD there, you can see we're coming up to Stilton Fen up reverse. So I'm not sure why we've been routed onto these tracks. I really hope that there are no trains coming, because that would be bad. So far, so good. Also, I do apologize for that blind tooltip. That's just the dumbest. I hate that. It's another odd quirk of the Class 801. The entire windshield is a hotspot for blinds. Did I see a whistle? Nope, I thought I saw a whistleboard there. So if you hover the mouse anywhere over the center here, you get that awesome blind tooltip. I apologize for that. Sometimes I forget and leave my mouse there. It's your birthday! Happy birthday, NASCAR Xfinity 2017. I hope you have a very happy birthday today. I hope your birthday includes many trains. The train that I'm driving today, if you haven't seen it yet, check out this train. It's beautiful. Reskinned Class 801 CPRR1 prototype. But I hope you also have many other trains. Hopefully some trains that you get to ride or trains that you get as presents. I hope that it is a fun birthday regardless, though, whether you have trains or not. I want to say that I know some people with birthdays today, but I don't think that's actually true. I knew somebody with a birthday, somebody who had a birthday yesterday. You may be the only September 3rd birthday I know. Well, for your birthday, we are just rolling along the East Coast Mainline, assuming you joined us relatively recently. I am testing out a prototype reskin that I've been working on for a while of a private train car that I want to build one day in real life called the CPRR1. Unfortunately, because Train Simulator is a pain in the neck. Our CPRR1 is pulling Amfleet and Amfleet coach and cafe cars, but our motive power is being provided by this Acela power car bumping us along at the back. So that's our lot in life for the day. We are speeding ever so slightly. Let's adjust that. We're heading all the way from London's King's Cross all the way to Peterborough, and we have just about 10 miles left. Actually, that may not actually be true, because it looks like where has it routed us? This is concerning, actually, because if you'll notice, in fact, there comes Peterborough on the HUD now, and we need to get down for that 25. Let's start doing that. That still says 9.96 miles, which is probably when it switched us over to the slow lines. Oh, we need to get speed off faster than that. We want to be down for that 25. This is going to be interesting. I was watching a recent stream from Moleman978 where he was trying to go much further on the East Coast Mainline, all the way up towards York, and he encountered some... Uh-oh. I hope that red appears to be for us. I really hope we're not spatting. No, we're not. All right, I'm going to lay off the brakes slightly because we've slowed down quite a bit for the 25 that's coming up. In that particular scenario, it routed him to stop at every station twice, so he would have had to go all the way back south along the route and then all the way back north to actually get where he was going. He kind of struggled with figuring out what the routing system was trying to actually do. So I'm slightly concerned that it still says 9.96 miles. We'll see what happens here. We're going 39 miles an hour, heading towards that 25. I'm just going to let us coast a bit because we're going to be easily able to get down to 25 miles an hour. We have an HST there. Uh-oh, that HST appears to be on the same track. Yeah. So that didn't work well. That didn't work well at all. Fascinating. Fascinating. So that was among the more unexpected of the bugs we've encountered in Train Simulator today. All right, so we didn't get routed through random stations. We did get put on the same track as another service. I was kind of concerned about that ever since I realized we were on the lines that were headed in the opposite direction. So I'm quite amused by this. I mean, not by crashing trains. Crashing trains is bad, but wow. Okay. So this has been quite an exciting day. First, Train Simulator crashed. Then Train Simulator corrupted the content I was using. So we had random polygons freaking out our graphics card. And then it made us crash into an HST, which I should also mention made no effort whatsoever to not crash into us. So that was very exciting. That was very, very exciting indeed. Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious, by the way, if I click on the question mark here, will you guys... No, you can't see it. There's a little HUD that pops up showing information about the CPRR1. But that does not show up for you guys. It's like a little Steam overlay. Well, this has been a very exciting day in Train Simulator. As I said, we encountered bugs. We crashed a train. We almost made our way to Peterborough, and we dealt with motive power that wasn't actually being provided by the locomotive of our train. I thank you guys for joining me. It's certainly been quite the adventure. I hope you enjoyed the excitement along the way. If you are interested in trains, if you want to tell me what to do in my next videos, what I should be driving, what I should film, if you want me to do some intermediate routes before I do more CPRR1 adventuring, please do let me know. If you're watching on YouTube, in the comments, you know what to do. I won't bother saying the list of the 3 things you should do, because I think you know by now. I think you know what YouTube authors want you to do with their videos and their channels. But I hope to see you guys in the next video. It's been a lot of fun. Have a great week.